Welcome home to USA Global TV and Radio, a place where dreams take flight, with authentic storytelling, diverse perspectives and meaningful conversations, where global stories unite and bridges are built beyond all borders. Discover world-class education, entertainment, hope and inspiration. Together, we're building bridges worldwide. Subscribe to our channel, USA Global TV. Download our app, USA Global TV. Be our guest or join our team. Visit usaglobaltv.com. Thanks to our founder and executive producer, Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck. Music score by Yeffy Tang from Cloud Road Music. Voiceover artist Mike Porter. Creative direction by Paul Garcia. USA Global TV and Radio, your home for global connection. All rights reserved. This video and its contents are the exclusive property of USA Global TV and Radio. Unauthorized use, duplication or redistribution in any form is strictly prohibited.
Trauma, traumatic, trauma-inducing. What do these things mean? What is it? What is trauma? What does it mean for a moment to be traumatic? What was traumatic for you? Does it change from when you're a young kid versus being an adult? How do you handle it differently? How did you handle trauma when you were a kid versus how you handle trauma as an adult? And even as an adult, how did you handle it in your 20s or in your 30s or in your 40s? Or if you're in your 70s or 80s, do you handle it any differently? And that's what the topic tonight is. We're going to talk about trauma and how you can recover from it. And also, I guess, in a way, how you don't recover from it. One of the things I said before in a lot of shows, and I repeat a lot of things from other shows because I think it's important. There's certain topics that and certain tenets that, to me, matter. And one of them is when people say, I'm waiting for the scars to heal, that you'll wait forever because scars don't heal. Scars are the healing. You can't wait for a scar to heal. I have a scar on my arm from 1987 when I was 12 years old. I'm 51. That scar is going nowhere. That is the healing. The cut's gone, but the scar isn't. So here we are, USA Global TV and Radio. I'm Justin MIRIGLIANI on Just For You. Let me say that again. You as a whole, body, mind, and soul. I was giving you my company name. You as a whole, body, mind, and soul. It is great to have. Oh, and there's my graphic. So that's my website, Just For You. You can reach me at www.justforyoutc.com. And I do train AI, and I know people are really starting to get into that. So please reach out. I have a lot of different workshops that I do, and it's practical. It's not just here's theory or here's information about AI. It's practical use. And we do labs during the class. And there's my LinkedIn site, Justin MIRIGLIANI. You come to LinkedIn and find me there. And be happy to work with you on AI. But yeah, I mean, so trauma. This past, what made me think of this for this show is this past couple weeks, I've been going through some trauma. And I've been handling it a lot better than I would have a year ago or a few years ago. And the trauma, there have been two. One is that try to think of so many different ways to save the home that we had when the kids were born, my two daughters. They're almost 20 and 15. And there was just nothing that could be done to save the house. We're going through a divorce, almost done the divorce. And financially trying to save that house and also live somewhere else, it just wasn't feasible. It just wasn't something that could be done. And the house had to be sold. And not last week. Oh yeah, last week. It was the last day. And that was traumatic. It was really, really hard. The Saturday before, so the house sold on Monday, and last week we were closed, I should say. And last time I was in it, I had to clean out the garage. And this is a place that I had spent who knows how many hours, probably thousands of hours working out. I had converted the garage to a gym, and that was my gym. And, I couldn't believe that I was looking around this place that was so familiar. And all of a sudden, it wasn't going to be home to me anymore. I wasn't going to be able to go in it. I wasn't going to be able to ever do anything there again. And it was just surreal to look around that place that you had been for 20 years. Now, granted, I haven't lived there in over almost 2 years now, but knowing it was there, it felt okay. And then losing it did not feel okay. And it was traumatic. I mean, there were uh, times during that the week leading up to and then right after where I could not stop crying and just was completely consumed by trauma. The thought of it's a feeling to me that you can't break out of it. Something's happening to you, and no matter what you do, there's no escape from it. And I felt that before with my surgery when I had my colon removed. It was a point in time where something terrible was happening, traumatic, and there was no way out. And one of the ways I explained it was back at that time, it was before I even was on this network, I spoke about it felt like being on a plane that was going down. You're on this plane, you're flying, and the plane's going down, and there's not a thing you can do about it. You can't jump off the plane, you can't walk away, you can't go to sleep. There's nothing you can do. You're waiting to die. And even though it wasn't death, it was still waiting for a loss. And even with this, I have not been able to get away from it, including sleep. I dream about leaving that house every night. So I know it's traumatic because it's even in my subconscious where every night I have dreams about us packing up the house and um, the family that's coming behind us is on their way within the next hour and we still have to pack up the whole house and we're in a rush to get that done and it looks like we're going to run out of time. And I see my kids in these dreams and I see them so upset about having to leave their childhood home. And it's every night for me. And it would be nice to get an escape from that. Actually, to be honest with you, it feels better awake than it does asleep because when I'm asleep, it's much more um, vivid, I guess, than it is when I'm awake. And I'm hoping and I believe that in time that will start to subside, and I'm not going to have those vivid dreams about it as much. But right now, I do. And it just got me to think, if this is that traumatic for me, what do my kids feel like? I mean, they're younger, obviously. They're my kids. And they're, as I said before, 20 and 15. And they seem to be handling it really, really well. They seem to be going through this with sadness, but also with resilience, where they have accepted where they are, accepted the fact that they're in a different place. They're in an apartment now instead of a big 5-bedroom home. The place that they called home for their whole lives, but they seem to be well adjusted to that. And I wonder, I mean, would I be, was, I could tell you, I was not that well adjusted when I was 14 years old. I moved out of Philadelphia into a house with my parents in Delaware County, which is right outside of Philadelphia, but it went from the city to the suburbs. It was a huge, huge change. And I didn't handle it well. I had a really rough time. And I'm not great with change. I mean, I'm just not. I never have been. I'm better at it now than I was before, but I struggle with it. It's just something that is constantly work. And it seems like my kids have been able to get beyond that. They didn't inherit the fear or I guess the pain of seeing things change. But I know that it's gonna be tough, and it's gonna be something that they're gonna remember for the rest of their lives. Something obviously that I will remember, my ex-wife will remember for the rest of our lives. I'm very open on these shows. I'm open on social media, and I don't do it because I have to. I do it because I want to. I think that most people have experiences that are very similar, but sometimes think that they're the only ones. And I just want people to feel like things are normal, even the things that seem abnormal are normal. But at the same time, there is only so much that I can share without also infringing on somebody else's privacy. So there was another incident that happened 2 weeks ago that I can't tell you exactly what the incident was, but it had to do with violence and me being the victim of violence. And it was traumatic. It was traumatic for the person who was involved. It was traumatic for the people who saw it. It was traumatic for me, not because I was physically hurt, but it was shocking. It was something that I didn't expect. It was something that I had never thought would happen. And the only solace I have, I guess, is the way that I handled it. I think if it had been a year ago or 2 years ago, I might have gone back and been, I don't want to say violent, but defended myself. Uh, and I didn't. I took what I had to take, and for the good of the situation, I didn't retaliate at all. I just took what I had to take and got it over with. I guess the trauma part of it is, what did I do to get somebody to the point where they felt that that was necessary? And I looked at myself and I asked myself, how did that person get to that place? What must have hurt them so badly? And what hand did I play in it? What role did I play in it to get them to that point where they lost control? And that for me was the trauma. That was, I that went over in my head things that might have happened years ago, or things that might have happened fairly recently, or things that happened that day that caused this incident. And for me, the trauma is, as I said, wrestling with the idea that what happened to me wasn't right. I mean, it wasn't something that should have happened. I don't think I deserved it. But how hurt must that person have been to have resorted to that, especially with my kids around, for them to witness that their father being hit. The thoughts in my head of, how do I handle this without upsetting them any more than is necessary? What could I possibly do to get this to stop without causing more trauma to them? Yeah, I don't know if I handled it 100% correctly. I probably did not. I handled it the best I could at the time that it was happening. And remember, it's an emotional time. It's days before the house is going to be gone, where a place that we were for so long was no longer to be there. And you top it off with something like that, and it's tough. I mean, it's something that is traumatic, and I think we throw that word around way too much. I think people say, there are several words I think people throw around. Narcissist is another one. Everybody who people don't agree with is automatically a narcissist. Oh, he or she's a narcissist. He or she's a narcissist because of this or that. Eh, But by definition, most people are not narcissists. Most people there's a wide range, I guess. Some people have a lot of self-confidence. It doesn't necessarily mean they're narcissists. Some people have less self-confidence. It doesn't mean they don't have any. I think probably people fall in the middle. But a true narcissist, it's very rare that you have somebody who's truly, and there are people who are. I mean, it's not, you know, some people are serial killers. I mean, very few people. I mean, they get the notoriety because they do something that's horrendous. But yeah, I mean, if you had a million people in a room, how many serial killers would you have? Probably, if one, that would be a lot. Same thing with narcissism. But same thing with the word traumatic. What do we find traumatic? My kids mentioned that word because of the incident that happened. They said, I'm traumatized. And I couldn't help but think, if it had been worse, would they have been really traumatized? Are they traumatized for real? Or is that just a word that they used? Or are they really traumatized? Now, the long and the short of it is, I didn't get hurt. I mean, I had a bruise. That's not a big deal. I didn't get knocked out. I didn't get a bloody nose. I didn't get anything like that. Didn't get hurt to the point where I had to go to the hospital. Had that happened, I guess that would have been, in my mind, for them, traumatic, but it wasn't. It didn't happen. But when they see a family member attack another family member, that's hard for even a 20-year-old. It's hard for a 51-year-old to comprehend, let alone a kid. So kind of double trauma, I guess, for them. Having to leave their house and having to witness something like that. And I'm still wrestling with it myself, trying to figure out how I feel about it. I mean, you have the anger, the feeling of, how did I let this happen? How did I not figure out a way to stop this from happening? And there's the feeling of, as I said before, what role did I play? Granted, that day I didn't really play a role at all, but in the past, have I played a role in that? Is there a reason? Did I cause unresolved anger with someone? And who pays the price? I really mostly paid the price. I did. And so did the person who was involved, and my kids. There was an emotional price. Physical, no. I mean, we were lucky that it didn't turn out to be anything beyond superficial. Bruce. But I wonder what that word trauma really means. Yeah, I had I was interviewing Charlie Min. Charlie had been on this program before, and Charlie created a documentary and allowed me to be a part of it, which was really great. It was about Pele Lindbergh. Pele Lindbergh was a young kid who was a great goaltender for the Flyers in the NHL, and then was killed in a drunk driving accident. But that's not the gist of the story. The most important part of this is Charlie allowed me to be a part of it. And then Charlie, this past week, and he's done 46 documentaries, so he's very well known in the world of documentaries, in the film industry. And he asked me to do the interviews for a film that he's doing on grief. And Charlie is going through grief right now. Charlie's mother passed away the day after Christmas, of this past year, 2025. And as I interviewed him, he talked about trauma. He talked about what causes him to be awake at night, and what causes him to have recurring nightmares, and what causes him to, as he said, not sure if I want to be alive. Now, he's not suicidal, but he's not finding joy in life. It sounds like depression. I'm not a doctor, but I've been depressed, so I know kind of what those symptoms are. And Is that trauma or is that mourning? Where is the line? To me, it sounds like a mix of both. Some people, I guess, can I have another friend whose mother passed away, and the next day he was at work. In fact, after the luncheon, after she was buried, he flew out of town to go to work. Now, I don't think I could do that. In fact, I know I couldn't do that. So, two people experience loss. One is very, very distraught, and the other one is sad, but able to kind of put it behind him and do what he's got to do. Now, Charlie is doing what he has to do as well, but he's in a lot of pain doing it. So, when we get back from this commercial, I'm going to talk a little bit more about what is the difference between trauma and just a feeling of loss. We'll be right back.
What if many of the problems we associate with aging are not random? What if there are identifiable causes behind declining energy, chronic disease, and memory problems? We have been told that aging is simply something we must accept, that slowing down is normal, that growing older means growing weaker. But what if that's only part of the story? Why do some people remain active and engaged well into their later years? Why do others struggle with disease, fatigue, and declining health? What is happening beneath the surface? What processes drive aging? In Aging Sucks, researcher, educator, and author Red O'Loughlin explores what researchers have discovered about why we grow older. No medical degree required, no confusing jargon, just clear explanations of what researchers have discovered about the processes that influence aging. You cannot stop aging, but understanding its causes may help you make better decisions about your health, your future, and your quality of life. Because understanding comes before action. Action creates hope. Aging sucks. End the guesswork. There is hope.
So before the break, we were talking about the difference between normal feelings of sadness and mourning, and also the feeling of trauma. And I was talking about Charlie Min, and Charlie lost his mother again, right the day after Christmas. And an added part of that story for Charlie was that he tried to save his mother with chest compressions for several minutes before the EMTs were able to get to her. And it was actually a long time. It was probably like a half an hour. I don't know how they got delayed that much, but maybe even 40 minutes. And Charlie was on the phone with the dispatcher and trying to save his mother's life. And I tried to put myself in that position. What would it have been like? It's bad enough to lose your mother, somebody that you're that close with. But how much worse would it be if you had to remember trying to save her and what was going through your mind? What was she doing at the time? What were the sounds that you heard? What were the sights that you saw? What were the smells that you smelled? I mean, all the things that would just be impossible to forget, imprinted on your memory because you're in the middle of something that's just highly emotional and something that is not anything that people do it's extraordinary. It's an extraordinary moment. It's something that most people never have to do. And even if you do, what are the odds that it's your parent, and then it's your parent who's dying? So I could see where it would be harder for Charlie than it would be for someone who just lost their parent. Now, when I'm in that position, I know that no matter what, it's going to be horrendous. It's not going to be easy. I'm not good at this. My sister and I joke around about how we're not equipped for this. And I'm not equipped for it, but I don't have much of a choice. Just like in the situations that I've gone through now with the loss of the house and this assault, I could curl up in a ball and I could say that I can't go on. And a year ago I did that. A year ago I was facing divorce, facing the possible loss of my business. My charity was falling down. I was having trouble. My kids were going through a lot with divorce and me moving out. And lost an uncle, had some family members get sick. It just seemed like everything was piling on, and I just wasn't able to find the strength to continue going forward. It felt like nothing was going to work. And I had the thoughts of last week when I would break down and cry. Am I going to revert? That was one of the things I was afraid of. Like, this is a big test. Am I really changed? Am I really better? Or is this just, is the slide inevitable? And I didn't think it would be. I said to myself, you're never going to let yourself get to where you were a year ago. And I was right. I was right. See, in the past, trauma would have me wallow in it and not feel like trying to get out of it. It zap my energy, and I would just sit in it and struggle. And now I can have a moment where I'm upset, I cry, or I just feel horrible and just devastated. But then 20 minutes later, I can say, okay, now that just happened. I don't have to live in it continuously. I can move on from that moment. And then it might come in waves. Trauma is not something that is linear. I've talked to people who have lost children, God forbid. I can't even imagine what that must be like. And I don't want to imagine what that must be like. But these parents who've lost children talk about how, some days they feel okay and they can go out and they can do things and they could go shopping or they could go to an amusement park or whatever it is, and they can have a good time, go out to a dinner and enjoy it, go on a date and enjoy it. And then there's other days where they can't get out of bed. And I think that's the universal thing. I don't think it's something that is unique to any one person. I think that that's how most people feel. And I made the mistake of thinking that if I ever felt better, then I was over it and I couldn't be upset again. It was all or nothing. So either I was sad and was going to stay sad until it was time to not be sad, or I was going to be sad, get better, and then never be allowed to be sad about it again because it's over. And that's illogical. That's not the way that it works. There are going to be ups and downs. For the last 3 days, I was in Cleveland because with all that she went through, both kids went through a lot, but my youngest daughter, who's 15, Rebecca, it seems like everything is being taken away from her. Her home, her stability, our marriage, all the things that she was losing. And then she was, for last year, dying to go to a concert, Louis Tomlinson, who was from One Direction. And I got her tickets for Christmas. She had been waiting for even before that. And the last night that she was going to be in the house was the night of the concert. And she drove over there. She was driven over there. And it rained, and it was an outdoor event. It was completely muddy. There were trees down. It was a terrible storm in Philadelphia, and they had to cancel it. I was like, you got to be kidding me. Like, how much more is going to be taken away from her? How much more? And the wheels just started turning in my head. Like, there's got to be a way to fix this. There's got to be something. And unfortunately, Louis Tomlinson's not coming back to this area. So I looked up his schedule and I found out that he was going to be in Cleveland, Ohio. And I called her up and I said, look, you want to take a road trip to Cleveland? And we did. I bought tickets to the concert, found a hotel, and to say it cost a little bit, we drove instead of flying. We drove to Cleveland. And I didn't do it because I felt like that was something that I had to do to make it up to her, but I did it because I didn't want her to look back on this time and see total loss. where everything that she wanted, everything that she was hoping for was just taken away. And if that meant having to drive to Cleveland, 7-hour drive, that meant having to drive to Cleveland and then home. So we went Sunday and the concert was Monday, and then we drove home yesterday. And it was amazing because even in all this trauma, both rides for 7, and it was more than 7 hours because I have a bad back. I was injured in an accident. So I can't drive 7 straight hours. I can't drive more than 2. So if I drive 2 hours, I got to get out of the car, walk around for 10 to 20 minutes and stretch. And then I could get another 2 hours in. So it's a longer process than would be if I was completely healthy. But in that whole thing, we didn't turn on the radio one time. She wasn't on her phone one time. We talked for, I guess, 9 hours, because it took us about 9 hours with all the stops. And it took away some of that for me. And I think for her, I'm pretty sure from the way she was acting, that it took away some of that discomfort, some of that pain of the last couple of weeks. And when she was in the concert, I mean, I'm not an old man and I'm not one of those people like, oh, these kids today, but I was sitting next to her in the crowd, and I don't know any of his music. It was good. I mean, I enjoyed what I heard, but I don't know any of the music. And these are all young girls, probably anywhere between 15, 14 to 25, something like that. And like young girls do, when he came out on the stage, they started to scream, high-pitched, ear-piercing screams. And it was just like an ice pick to the temple. And I just said to Rebecca, I said, Rebecca, look, I'm gonna go down under, move away a little bit, because it's way too loud for me. So I went down, and she had people around her. She made friends with people from all Kentucky and all different places. So I got to watch the concert, and I checked on her from time to time just to look in. She was having a great time. She was singing, and she's talking to people, and she didn't need me there. And that's okay. I was fine with that. But I got to stand there, and I was looking around and looking at the skyline of Cleveland and looking at the concert, and it was more peaceful where I was because it wasn't as loud, and you could walk around, and I kept thinking, this is a really cool night. This is something that is that I'm not going to forget. This is the concert that my favorite concert, the best concert I've ever been to, even though it was somebody I don't know, but the circumstances made it so good. And I thought, wow, in all this trauma and all the stuff that's, the dumpster fire that's been going on the last 2 or 3 weeks, I'm going to remember this as a good night. I'm going to remember this as a good trip. And my hope is that when Rebecca looks back at the tough time that she's had, she'll say to herself, yeah, but in that tough time, there was a little bit of a lifeline. I got to go to Cleveland, and I got to see this concert that I never would have seen. And one thing I told her on the car ride, we talked about everything. And that's really special, because Rebecca's not a talker. She's not somebody who's going to spill her guts. I mean, we barely ever have long phone conversations, although that's been changing as she's gotten older. But when she was a little bit younger, it was very quick. She just doesn't like to open up. But 7-hour or 9-hour, whatever it was, conversations, and then talking at night in the hotel room, and at breakfast, and all the different things that we did. I told her, I said, you got to look at the positives that I said, you can learn from my mistakes. I wasn't great at this. I said, but with all this trauma, with all the stuff that we've been through, and you not going to that concert because it rained, this trip would never have happened. So I said, to me, and the way I'm looking at it, I'm glad the one in Philadelphia got rained out, because otherwise we would never have had this one in Cleveland. I teach a class about stuff like this where, and I'm not saying I'm great at this. I'm not. I try. I'm better at it than I was, but I struggle with it. But most of these things, uh, most things in life are not good or bad. They're a mix of both. And I explained it to her. And I said, Rebecca, if we went to, Disney World, and we went for 7 days and it rained 5 out of 7 days, when you come home, people would ask you, how was your trip? And most people would say it was terrible. It rained 5 out of 7 days. But what about the 2 days that it did not rain? Maybe they were great days. You went to the parks, you had a great time. And even the 5 days where it did rain, maybe you went to great dinners. Maybe you um, went to special movies like, 3D movies or whatever it is. You played board games or whatever. You went to the indoor pool. There are a million things that you could do. So no, it wasn't exactly the way you wanted it, but it wasn't all bad. And the same thing if it was the reverse. What if it was sunny and beautiful for 5 out of 7 days? You might go home and say, "Yeah, it was a great trip. Everything went perfectly." Did it? No. You had 5 days that went well, but even those 5 days, maybe it was hot and you were tired. It's very, very hot in the summer in Orlando. So yeah, you may have done things you wanted to do, but you may have been dragging. You may have been feeling like, oh my gosh, I can't breathe. It's so hot. I'm so tired. But you edit that out. Your mind edits that out. So I told her, I said, that's the way we're gonna have to look at things going forward, is that um, most things, most, not saying all, most things are a mix. There are some things that are great about it, or even just good about it, and there are things that can be awful, horrible, but things that, it's probably going to be a bit of both. So think about, for you, how do you get through trauma? And whether it's physical trauma, and I don't know that physical trauma doesn't come with emotional trauma. I really don't. I think, yeah, for me, yeah, being injured right now, there's emotional trauma because I don't know if I'll ever return to where I was before. Now, I'm not going to let it destroy my life to the point where I can't function, but having my colon removed, that was physically painful, obviously, but emotionally, it was almost unbearable. And it was just something that couldn't believe was happening. And I think trauma is harder when you're younger. I think it gets somewhat easier as you get older because I think you get more practiced at it. The first time somebody dies that you were close to, you didn't know what that was going to feel like. You didn't know how you were going to react to it. Then after, I had a psychologist who used to tell me, I was this therapist for almost 30 years. And he said, grandparents are like a trial run for your parents, meaning that if you have grandparents and they pass away, that is the trial run for your parents. And I know that sounds kind of weird, and to me it did too, but he's got a point because that is usually, if things go chronologically, you're going to lose your grandparents and then you're going to lose your parents and then you're going to be gone and your kids will have to go through the same thing. And I have had to face that. Now, unfortunately, I never met my paternal grandfather, so I didn't have to go through his death, but I did have to go through the death of my two grandmothers and my mother's father. And as much as it's going to be traumatic, and it'll be the worst loss of my life when I lose my parents, I can look back on the trauma that I was able to recover from losing people who I loved a lot, my grandparents, and somehow use that to make things just a little bit easier. It's going to be horrible, but that's, I think, the reason why trauma is not as profound as an adult versus a kid is, yeah, you're more developed, but you also have had some practice. You got the reps in. You've seen loss before, and not just loss of people close to you, but friends, people who are, I'm not saying not close, but grandparents and grandkids usually have a very close relationship. Parents and kids usually have a very close relationship. But by going through it so many times in your life, by the time you're older, you kind of know how it's going to play out, or at least you have some idea. So I want to thank you for letting me talk about trauma. And it's helpful for me to be able to talk about it here, because it is something that's on my mind. It is something that I have to deal with now, and I can't run away from it. But I hope this helps you if you're struggling with trauma to think about, oh, look at the number. Thank you. There's the National Domestic Violence Hotline, 800-799-SAFE, SAFE. Yeah, it's important. If you feel like you're in danger, if you feel that your kids are in danger or anything like that, reach out. Whether you're male, female, it doesn't matter. Make sure you do that. But again, I want to thank you for allowing me to share this and I guess vent in a way. And I hope this helps you going forward. I hope you remember that being weak is not weak. It's okay not to be okay. All right, everybody, have a great rest of the week. And I will see you next Monday night at our regular time. Take care.
Every day, we wake up knowing what we should do. We know we should take better care of ourselves. We know we should have the difficult conversation. We know we should stop making excuses. We know we should invest in our future. We also know we should take the first step. So why don't we? It's not because we aren't smart enough. It's not because we don't have enough information. And it's certainly not because we don't care. We live in a world overflowing with knowledge. Books, podcasts, videos, courses, experts, even artificial intelligence. We have more access to information than any generation before us. Yet so many of us are still waiting for the right time, waiting to feel ready, waiting until tomorrow. But tomorrow becomes next week becomes next year, and before you know it, another opportunity has passed us by. The truth is, knowing has never been the finish line. It's only the starting line. Our lives don't change because we know more. Our businesses don't grow because we know more. Our relationships don't improve because we know more. And our health doesn't transform because we know more. Everything changes when we act. When we choose courage over comfort, progress over perfection, action over intention. The question isn't, what else do we need to know? The question is, what are we going to do with what we already know? Stop. Why Knowing Isn't Enough by Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck. Because knowing opens the door. Action changes your life. Available September 2026.
Every great story begins with a vision. At USA Global TV and Radio for years, we've been providing world-class education, entertainment, inspiration, imagination, connections, and hope. Most people don't stay to watch the outro or the credits, but it's the people behind every success, behind every breakthrough, and behind every unforgettable story who matter. The TV show hosts, our guests, our sponsors, our publicists, our production team, our distribution team, our search engine optimization team, and so many more. You're the ones who make the difference. Every great story belongs to the people who bring it to life. Our future looks bright at USA Global TV and Radio, and that's because of you, our loyal fan base all around the world in more than 60 countries. Together, we're making a difference because you matter. USA Global TV and Radio, live streaming to over 60 countries. Voiceover, Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck. Video production and direction, Paul Garcia. Subscribe to our channel, USA Global TV and Radio on YouTube.
Hey you, psst, yes you, watching this right now. Are you creating content, a blog, a podcast, a newsletter, going live on Instagram or TikTok, and still not seeing real visibility or growth? Here's why. Anyone can post, anyone can go live, but not everyone is positioned to be taken seriously. Right now, people are going to YouTube to search for experts, for answers, for credibility. So while you're putting in the work, someone else is being seen as the authority. Not because they know more, because they're positioned better. Now imagine this. Your own professionally produced TV show, marketed, distributed, optimized with SEO so people can actually find you. Not just seen, but searchable, discoverable, positioned. You're trained, you're coached, you're guided. No experience necessary, but you do have to be coachable, because this is about stepping into a higher level. This isn't about doing more, it's about doing it right. We've already built the platform, 2 YouTube channels, a global audience, a Silver Creator Award. So the question is, how much longer are you going to rely on temporary visibility when you could be building real authority? If you're ready to be seen differently, go to usaglobaltv.com and apply to host your own show. This is for individuals who are serious about investing in their visibility, their credibility, and their growth. If that's you, we're ready. USA Global TV and Radio, where your voice becomes your platform. Executive producer, Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck. Videographer, Paul Garcia. Voiceover, Ed Vargas. All rights reserved. This production is the exclusive property of the USA Global TV and Radio and may not be reproduced, distributed, or used without written permission.
Thank you, viewers and listeners of USA Global TV and Radio, for joining us today. We're honoured to have your time and attention as part of our global community. At USA Global TV and Radio, we believe in the power of authentic conversations, meaningful connections, and creating a world of possibilities together. Want to be part of something bigger? Join our team of elevated listeners at usaglobaltv.com, a space where your voice matters and your ability to listen transforms relationships. Stay connected with us across all our platforms for thought-provoking discussions, expert insights, and empowering stories. Subscribe to our channels at youtube.com/c/usaglobaltv. Follow us on social media and explore the endless opportunities we're creating for growth, learning, and inspiration. Together, we're not just broadcasting, we're building bridges and changing lives one conversation at a time. For inquiries, contact us at info@usaglobaltv.com. Produced by Executive Producer and Director Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck. Voiceover by Mike Porter. Creative direction by Paul Garcia. All rights reserved. Visit usaglobaltv.com to view our full terms and conditions.